Death. The mere mention of the word can spark discomfort, fear, or curiosity. Yet, across millennia, it has remained one of humanity's greatest mysteries. How do we make sense of something so universal, yet so elusive? Ancient civilizations sought answers in ways that resonate deeply even today, crafting texts that attempted to guide souls through the afterlife while revealing profound truths about life itself. But what if those texts held secrets not only for the dead, but for the living? What if they could help us confront our own mortality and transform the way we live? Today, we're diving into some of the most mysterious books ever written. Texts like the Book of the Dead from ancient Egypt, the Tibetan Bardo Thodol, and others that shaped how cultures throughout history understood the afterlife. These works aren't merely historical artifacts. They are guidebooks, offering wisdom that transcends time and culture. By the end of this journey, you'll walk away with a new perspective, not just on death, but on what it means to live fully. Through the lens of ancient wisdom, we'll explore how understanding mortality can empower us to live with greater purpose, clarity, and peace. Ready to uncover what these ancient texts reveal about the mysteries of the beyond? Let's begin by stepping into the world where life and death converge, the historical and cultural backdrop of these enigmatic works. To truly grasp the depth of these ancient texts, we must first immerse ourselves in the world where they were created, a world shaped by beliefs, rituals, and the ever-present reality of death. Each of these works emerged not in isolation, but as part of a broader cultural dialogue about what it means to cross from life to the afterlife. The Egyptian Book of the Dead. Let's start in ancient Egypt, a civilization renowned for its intricate rituals surrounding death. For the Egyptians, death was not an end but a transition to an eternal existence. The Book of the Dead, or the Book of Going Forth by Day, served as a guide for the deceased on their journey through the underworld. This collection of spells, prayers, and incantations was designed to protect the soul and ensure its safe passage to the field of reeds, a paradisiacal version of the earthly Nile. These texts were not one-size-fits-all. They were often personalized, with the names of the deceased included in specific passages. Imagine a map tailored to your unique journey, promising not only survival but triumph in the afterlife. One of the most iconic elements of the Book of the Dead is the weighing of the heart ceremony. Here, the deceased's heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice. A heart lighter than the feather signified a virtuous life, granting the soul passage. Heavier, the consequences were dire. This focus on morality and preparation reflects an essential truth. For the Egyptians, how you lived determined how you would be remembered, and how you would fare in eternity. The Tibetan Bardo Thodol. Fast forward thousands of years and thousands of miles to Tibet, where another seminal work emerged, the Bardo Thodol, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Unlike the Egyptian guide, this text doesn't dwell on moral judgment but on the journey of the soul through the bardos, intermediate states between death and rebirth. According to Tibetan Buddhism, the soul undergoes a 49-day process after death, traversing phases where it encounters visions, deities, and its own karma. The Bardo Thodol serves as a manual for navigating these stages, emphasizing the importance of mindfulness even in death. What's fascinating is how the text blends practical guidance with profound spiritual philosophy. It encourages the reader, or listener, as it was traditionally read aloud to the deceased, to recognize the illusions of the material world and to embrace liberation. The ultimate goal? Escaping the cycle of reincarnation and achieving enlightenment. Other mysterious texts. Beyond Egypt and Tibet, other cultures produced equally compelling works. In medieval Europe, the Ars Moriendi, the art of dying, offered Christians guidance on preparing for a good death. Meanwhile, Hindu and Jain traditions explored concepts of the afterlife in the Garuda Purana and other sacred texts, emphasizing cycles of reincarnation and cosmic justice. Though diverse in their approaches, these texts share common themes: the importance of preparation, the interplay of morality and destiny, and the notion that death is not an end but a transformation. A shared human curiosity. What unites these disparate works is their reflection of humanity's enduring curiosity about what lies beyond. Whether through elaborate rituals or contemplative philosophy, these cultures sought to demystify death and offer solace to the living. In their quest to understand the afterlife, they also revealed much about life itself. The Book of the Dead teaches us to live virtuously, the Bardo Thodol to embrace impermanence, and the Ars Moriendi to prepare with grace. As we transition into exploring how these ancient lessons can apply to modern life, ask yourself, how does your culture influence your view of death? What can we learn from these civilizations to confront our own mortality with courage and wisdom? Ancient texts like the Book of the Dead and the Bardo Thodol may seem like relics of distant cultures, but their messages resonate far beyond their original contexts. They offer profound insights not only about death, but also about how to live a life of meaning and intention. By exploring these lessons, we can uncover tools to navigate our modern world, where the fear of mortality often looms large. Lesson 1. Embracing mortality to find purpose. One of the most striking lessons from these texts is the idea that life gains clarity and purpose when viewed through the lens of mortality. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the constant preparation for the afterlife was a reminder that earthly actions mattered. Egyptians lived with the understanding that their deeds would one day be weighed, not just by gods but by their own conscience. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Contemplating mortality, as seen in practices like memento mori, Latin for remember you will die, has been shown to enhance focus and prioritization. When we acknowledge the finite nature of life, we're more likely to align our choices with our deepest values. Practical takeaway. Start small. Write down 3 things you would focus on if you had only 1 year to live. Use this as a guide to reevaluate your current priorities. Lesson 2. The power of letting go. The Bardo Thodol offers a different but equally transformative perspective. In its vivid descriptions of the Bardos, it emphasizes the importance of letting go of attachments, fears, and illusions. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that clinging to the material or emotional can hinder the soul's journey toward liberation. In a modern context, this lesson is invaluable. We often hold on to past regrets, unfulfilled desires, or even toxic relationships, not realizing how much they weigh us down. Learning to release these attachments can free us to live with greater peace and authenticity. Practical takeaway. Practice mindfulness exercises inspired by Tibetan traditions. A simple meditation. Focus on your breath and visualize letting go of one fear or regret with each exhale. Lesson 3. Navigating the unknown with courage. Whether it's the treacherous underworld of the Book of the Dead or the disorienting visions of the Bardos, these texts remind us that navigating the unknown requires courage. They don't promise an absence of fear. Instead, they offer tools to confront it. This lesson is strikingly relevant today. From personal challenges to global uncertainties, our lives are filled with moments that demand resilience in the face of the unknown. Ancient rituals, like preparing for the weighing of the heart, or the Tibetan practice of guiding the soul, can inspire us to approach life's uncertainties with preparation and determination. Practical takeaway. Develop a personal ritual for facing fear. It could be as simple as journaling your anxieties and writing one actionable step to address them. Lesson 4. Building a legacy. Another recurring theme in these texts is the idea of legacy. For the Egyptians, legacy was tied to moral virtue and the remembrance of one's name. The Ars Moriendi emphasized leaving behind a spiritual impact, focusing on faith and the soul's journey to heaven. In modern times, legacy isn't just about what we leave behind in death, it's also about how we influence others while we're alive. Whether it's through acts of kindness, creative pursuits, or mentoring others, our legacy is built day by day. Practical takeaway. Write a legacy statement, reflecting the values and actions you hope will define your life. Use this as a North Star for your daily decisions. Applying ancient wisdom to modern struggles. These ancient lessons have practical applications across many aspects of life. For example, in relationships, learning to let go of resentment and embrace impermanence can foster deeper connections. In careers, viewing work through the lens of purpose rather than status can help us focus on meaningful contributions. In personal growth, facing fears and embracing the unknown can lead to transformative breakthroughs. Story of transformation. Consider the story of Sarah, a woman in her 30s who stumbled upon the Bardo Thodol during a difficult period in her life. Struggling with anxiety about her career and relationships, she found solace in the text's teachings on impermanence. By incorporating simple meditative practices and letting go of her rigid expectations, she transformed her perspective. Her newfound acceptance didn't just ease her anxiety, it helped her rediscover joy and gratitude in everyday moments. This is just one example of how these ancient lessons can guide us today. Whether it's through philosophical reflection or practical action, the wisdom of the past continues to illuminate paths forward. Seamless transition. Now that we've explored the timeless lessons these texts offer for life, it's time to confront an even deeper question. How can we overcome the fear of death itself? In the next section, we'll delve into strategies inspired by these works to transform fear into understanding, and perhaps even peace. Death has always been one of humanity's greatest fears, a shadow that looms over our existence, shaping how we live and how we love. From the moment we grasp the concept of mortality, the inevitability of the unknown can feel overwhelming. But the ancient texts we've been exploring offer powerful tools to face this fear head-on, transforming it into an opportunity for growth and understanding. The root of the fear. At its core, the fear of death often stems from the unknown. What happens when we die? Will it hurt? Will we simply cease to exist? These questions tap into a primal uncertainty. For some, the fear is existential. For others, it's tied to the potential loss of control or the pain of leaving loved ones behind. Ancient cultures acknowledged this fear but approached it not as a weakness to be ignored, but as a reality to be embraced. The Book of the Dead, the Bardo Thodol, and similar texts weren't just maps for the deceased. They were tools for the living to prepare mentally and spiritually for the inevitable. Facing fear with knowledge. One of the most profound teachings from these works is the idea that understanding diminishes fear. The Bardo Thodol describes the stages of the afterlife in vivid detail, offering a sense of familiarity to what might otherwise seem like a chaotic void. Similarly, the Book of the Dead lays out specific steps and challenges, turning the journey into something navigable, even predictable. Modern parallels can be found in therapeutic approaches like exposure therapy, which suggests that confronting fears in a controlled way can reduce their power. By contemplating mortality, not in a morbid sense, but as an essential aspect of life, we can begin to demystify it. Practical takeaway. Spend 5 minutes each day reflecting on what death means to you. Write down any fears or uncertainties and explore where they come from. Rituals for acceptance. Throughout history, rituals have been central to processing the fear of death. In ancient Egypt, mummification wasn't just a practical process. It was a sacred ritual symbolizing the soul's readiness for the afterlife. Tibetan monks chant passages from the Bardo Thodol to guide the soul and provide comfort to the living. These rituals remind us of the power of symbolism and repetition in overcoming fear. Today, creating personal rituals around acceptance, whether it's lighting a candle in memory of a loved one or writing a letter to your future self, can bring a sense of peace. Practical takeaway. Design your own ritual of acceptance. This could involve journaling your thoughts about life and death, meditating on the impermanence of nature, or creating a small symbolic act of letting go. Reframing death as a teacher. One of the most transformative perspectives offered by these texts is the idea that death is not an adversary, but a teacher. The Egyptians viewed death as a trial of character, where virtues were tested and rewarded. The Tibetans saw it as a transition, a chance for liberation. In modern times, we often avoid the topic of death entirely, but this avoidance only amplifies our fear. By reframing death as an opportunity to reflect on life, we can use it as a motivator to live more fully. Consider this: what if the inevitability of death wasn't something to dread, but something to inspire you? Every moment becomes more precious when viewed as finite. Practical takeaway. Write down 3 lessons you believe death can teach you about how to live. Reflect on how these lessons could change your daily habits or mindset. From fear to peace. Ultimately, the wisdom of these ancient texts points to a profound truth. Peace comes not from denying mortality but from accepting it. Whether through spiritual practices, philosophical reflection, or creating connections with others, facing death with courage allows us to let go of fear. Take the story of a hospice worker named Michael, who discovered the Bardo Thodol while supporting terminally ill patients. Inspired by its teachings, he began guiding patients and their families through meditative practices that helped them find peace in their final moments. Michael himself found that embracing death deepened his appreciation for life, a transformation available to all of us. Transition to the next chapter. With fear diminished and a new sense of understanding, we're ready to take the next step. In the final chapter, we'll explore how these teachings can inspire not only acceptance but a legacy, a way of living that leaves an impact long after we're gone. As we reach the end of this journey, it becomes clear that the ancient texts we've explored, the Book of the Dead, the Bardo Thodol, and others, offer more than just guidance for the afterlife. They serve as profound reminders that how we approach death is deeply intertwined with how we choose to live. Living with intention. The Egyptians believed that one's heart, when weighed against the feather of Ma'at, revealed the truth of a person's life. This wasn't just about the afterlife, it was a call to live virtuously, to leave behind a legacy of honesty, kindness, and courage. Similarly, the Tibetan teachings emphasized mindfulness and liberation, not just at the moment of death, but throughout life. In today's fast-paced world, we often forget to pause and reflect on what truly matters. But the wisdom of these ancient cultures reminds us, life is finite, and it's the choices we make now that define not only our future but the mark we leave on others. Your legacy in action. Legacy isn't only about grand achievements. It's about the everyday acts of love, integrity, and connection. Whether through mentoring someone, contributing to a cause, or simply offering a kind word, the impact of our actions ripples far beyond what we can see. Take a moment to imagine. What do you want to be remembered for? What values do you hope to pass on? Your legacy begins with how you live today. Practical takeaway. Create a life manifesto summarizing your core values and goals. Use this as a guide to align your actions with the legacy you want to leave. Death, as these texts show us, is not the end but a transformation. A reminder that every moment we have is an opportunity to create meaning. By embracing mortality, we gain clarity. By letting go, we find peace. And by focusing on our legacy, we live with purpose. So, as you close this chapter, consider the lessons we've uncovered. These ancient books offer not just knowledge about death, but a blueprint for a fuller, richer life. Their wisdom calls us to live in a way that honors the present, prepares for the inevitable, and leaves a lasting impact. If this exploration has resonated with you, take the next step. Seek out these texts, dive deeper into their teachings, and reflect on how they can transform your own life. And remember, the greatest mystery isn't what lies beyond death, it's how we choose to live while we're here.